Hey, what's up everybody? Anton here from dropshiplifestyle.com, and today I was spending a bunch of time working on some training we're doing that's going to be released at the same time as my new book. And when I was doing that, it really got me thinking of like the beginning, right? When I first got into e-commerce back in 2007, and specifically it got me thinking of the things that I wish I would have known way back then that would have given me a big jump start. There were 8 things that stood out. So today in this episode of Dropship Weekly, I'm gonna share those 8 things that I wish I knew back when I started in e-commerce. So the first thing is what I call the 90-10 rule. It's similar to the 80-20, but I do 90-10, and this is basically something that I apply when it comes to our marketing efforts. So how we're trying to attract people to become customers, and even things we're doing once they're on our site. So where we're spending money, what we're doing in terms of conversions, how much testing we're doing. For the formula that I like to do, it's 90% going into what is working and 10% on what is experimental, right? So let's just say hypothetically that Google Ads is making up right now all of our revenue. It's all coming from Google Ads. Well, okay, maybe rightfully I would start thinking, you know what, we should test some different platforms out. What if, knock on wood, something happens with Google and we either get too much competition or they decide they don't like us anymore, right? So back in the day, my thought process was very similar to that, and it was, okay, now let's start spending in other places. And really what ended up happening is we were taking too much of the main budget, of the main, not just money budget, but like time budget, like our effort. And we were diverting too much away from what was working and putting it into all these little buckets of testing. Like, okay, well, we should do this and this and this and this. And what happened is too much of what worked was being pulled away, again, between time and money, to be put into other things as projects that we were testing. Now, what we do now, and what I believe everybody should do, is only take about 10% away. So again, whatever your thing is, whatever's working, you wanna basically double down on that. You wanna, put your foot on the gas. You wanna make that as best as it can be. And you still do wanna be experimenting, but again, in my opinion, only about 10% of your budget in terms of money and in terms of time should go towards those experimental things. If you wanted to get into, Facebook ads, and again, Google was your moneymaker right now, you should not take 30% of your budget and throw it towards Facebook this month to see what happens, because that's going to take away from what is proven. Okay, so again, 90-10 rule. That's the first thing I wish I knew. It would have allowed me to put more of my own time, energy, and money into what is working and still be able to have this playground where we're learning about what may come next or what could be there as a safety net. Now, the second thing that I wish I knew earlier on was that when you outsource tasks and when you hire people and when you take things off your plate and have other people do them for you, they can actually improve. And this might sound obvious to you, but I'll tell you, my first few years in business, I was like terrified to let anybody do anything. Like I was doing, emails, I was answering phone calls, I was doing every single part of it because I thought if I hire somebody, what if they tell the customer the wrong thing? Or what if they steal my credit card number? Or what if they don't answer the phone and we miss out on all these orders? Or what if they offer bad support? I had all these things running through my head of why somebody else couldn't do what I did. And finally, what happened for me, the reason I started to, is we got to a breaking point in the e-commerce businesses where I just literally couldn't do it anymore. It was too much. There was too much volume. So that's when I started to outsource, and I firstly, which I recommend everyone do as well, I firstly outsourced customer service. And instead of, everything breaking like I thought it would, guess what? Our customer service was dramatically better. We had happier customers. They were being responded to faster. The customer service people liked customers a lot more than I do, so they were nicer to everybody, and it grew the business. So this thing that for years, again, I was so hesitant and like terrified to do, which is let go of some of the operations, as soon as I did it, it actually was better than it was before. It was better than when I did it myself. So wish I would have known that earlier on, and wish I would have, trusted that earlier on. And what that would have allowed me to do is have more time myself in those early years to focus on more of expansion instead of expansion and operations. So hopefully that helps you if you're kind of feeling that way right now, like you have to do it all yourself. The truth is you really don't. There's people that are probably better at least some of what you are doing than you are. Next thing, speaking of people, Okay, I'm calling this one People Lie. And maybe again, you've had experience with that, so you're thinking, yeah, of course. Well, I don't know why, but like I started young, my first e-commerce store when I was 21 years old, and I just always thought that people were honest. I thought that when people, I don't know, like, yeah, people lie to each other and whatnot, but I thought like from, a customer perspective, right? I thought they like just normal people shopping online. I thought if somebody had a bad experience, they would tell you. I thought if somebody was happy, they would tell you. What I didn't think is people would do things like, place fraudulent orders. And I didn't think that people would, get something delivered to their home where there was literally something signed by them saying I received it. And then they would say, no, I never got this thing, right? And I let this happen for years where like, maybe not years, maybe the first year, but I let it happen where like it was driving me crazy because I was like, how are so many things like, with like the way like customers are, messaging us and some of the things they were saying, like, how can this be happening? And it took me a while, but I finally realized, guess what? People are not ethical, and it's really sad. And I think it's gotten worse because, we've just seen it in different businesses with how people are so confident and almost like feeling that it's fine to rip people off. Like, it's crazy, like not even e-commerce related, but this video, somebody will probably make another video that's literally copying exactly what I'm saying and pretend it's their own. And people are totally okay with that for some reason. Like, it's really sick, but there's sick people out there. So when you get into business, you can't have this naive attitude like I had where everybody's always honest all of the time and you can take them for their word, because there's some bad people out there, and you can definitely do things to protect yourself when it comes to different things like orders and making sure that they're actually legit. Now there's a lot better fraud prevention tools that are available than there were when I first started. Shopify has built-in fraud protection. There's also different apps that you can use, and that helps on that side. And then on the same line with that, like when people do kind of freak out, and if you get like a nasty email or a nasty phone call, I used to take it personally. I used to think like, again, we really must have messed up, but I realized there just are some sick people out there, and being able to literally brush it off as soon as the interaction is over has really helped. I might have taken it a little too personally for my first year or so in business. So just know that you're gonna deal with cheats and frauds and con men in your life, and as a business owner, you'll be able to just write some of them off, and if it ever gets too bad, you'll have fraud prevention apps to get your money back. And if anybody ever rips your business off, I have another video, actually a podcast, on what to do if you get ripped off, and it's talking about different ways to actually get money from people if they're making money using your stuff, or just to how to get them shut down with whoever's processing what it is they're using. So people lie. Number 4 is numbers don't. Probably heard that before. It's in a bunch of different rap songs. They love that. But yeah, numbers don't lie, right? One of the things that I neglected early on was tracking. And I'm talking about tracking where my visitors were coming from, tracking which visitors were buying what, tracking how long people had known about us before they bought. And I neglected this because money was just, it was coming in. I was spending on all these different ad sources, and we were profitable. So I didn't, I just didn't think. Again, this is like naive, and maybe this is something you need to learn because you're new. Again, it's what I wish someone would have told me way back then. But tracking everything is just so important, and not just tracking things where, like, for example, you have Google Analytics set up and you look at it and you're really like not confident. You're like, oh, I wonder if this is accurate or not. It doesn't feel right. No, you need to get tracking set up to the point where you are confident enough when you see a report that you can make decisions off it. Because when I'm saying numbers don't lie, I mean, you might have in your head, let's just go back to the Facebook ads example. Maybe you just think like, wow, Facebook is doing well for me. Like, it's gotta be. I see how many people, like my stuff. Like, I'm sure it's doing well. Well, if you have a report in Google Analytics with e-commerce tracking enabled, and you see that maybe Facebook it's showing is, losing you, maybe it's like negative 30% compared to ad spend every month, you need to be able to look at that and make a clear decision of, okay, do I just cut Facebook? Do I totally change everything? But you need that data, and you need, more importantly, data that you're confident in, so when you see numbers like that, you can accept them for what they are and actually implement the changes that need to be changed so you can just grow faster. Again, I wish I knew that. Something I spend a lot of time and energy on now, and something I recommend you do as well. Okay, 5th thing that I wish I knew back in the day is that The money is in the list. I'll change that now for the past few years. The money is in the lists with an S on the end. And what I mean by that is email lists, Facebook lists for remarketing, Google lists for remarketing, Pinterest if you use them. Basically every platform, what you should be doing when people come to your website is capturing their data. Now for emails, simple enough, right? We're collecting their email addresses by doing all different types of either giveaways or incentives or even just through abandoned carts and through customers. But when I first started, again, I never thought that email marketing was important. The only emails that I captured for years were from customers, people that were checking out and buying, which is a great list to have, but I lost out on a ton of money. At this point, email marketing makes up between 30 and 40% of our revenue. And it's because, again, these people we can reconnect with. We can send them emails, we can make different offers, and we can bring them back, whether it's a day later or 5 years later. So definitely focus on growing an email list. Yes, even in 2019, start focusing on that today, not just with a little basic opt-in box that says, hey, get my free get my newsletter. Make it like, hey, you can get a discount code or enter to win a free $100 coupon or whatever it is, but incentivize it, start building email lists, and then of course have the Facebook code on your website so you can remarket to people on Facebook. Same thing with Google and basically anywhere else that you want to run ads. Having those remarketing lists has just led to very, very, very high return on ad spends, and it's not worth neglecting. Something I had no idea about when I first started, and now is a massive focus and source of revenue and profitability. Okay, next thing, the sixth thing I wish I knew is that everything is negotiable. Now, when I started, my goal, I wanted to make money and have, margin, but the thing I really was looking at is how do I get revenue as high as possible? And what's good about that is you can have a business that's generating, 200K a month, 300K a month, 500K a month. But the thing is, when you're at that size, you don't it sounds weird, but numbers don't seem real. You're paying off your credit card every day from 30K of orders, and literally every day it's getting billed like that, and just things kind of get, I don't know, they feel fake. $1 seems the same as 100,000. And I know that sounds crazy. It's not to be cocky. It's just when you have huge numbers going through your accounts every day, it's like an instant thing. It just totally changes. So what I'm saying with everything is negotiable is if you're doing that, right? If you're starting to hit these huge, huge, huge numbers, you might just stay at them and be happy. But what I realized after a few years in business is, let's just say you're operating at $1 million in top line money, and you're netting 20%, so you're netting $200,000 a year. That's your profit. Well, there are some very, very simple things you could do that could add 5% more margin, maybe even more. So instead of making $200,000 that year, you could make $250,000 for literally not doing anything different, for sending a few emails, because everything is negotiable. So the main things that saved us a ton of money and just next year just instantly made a ton more were getting different pricing structures with suppliers. So negotiating different pricing terms, sometimes only around the holidays, sometimes forever. And another thing is shipping, because shipping isn't a fixed cost, right? It varies from everything that's going out. So there's usually a lot of room there to save money, especially if you've never tried before. And negotiating that, especially if you did just one or the other, you could make a ton more money this year. If you do both, you could have enough to buy a new sports car at the end of the year. Again, assuming your revenues are already up there, but either way, you should do that now because, again, it's just extra money in your pocket, in your bank account every year. Okay, seventh thing. This I actually have a whole training lesson on in my dropship blueprint because it's that important, and I call this one usability over design. Now, I was, my first store was disgusting, visual wise, it was literally me trying to figure out how to use Yahoo stores back then, no idea, black and red colors, and it was terrible. But as soon as I started making money, I was okay, now I'm gonna hire some fancy company to make this beautiful website and have all this cool looking stuff on it. And again, what I learned after doing that probably too many times is that having a pretty website with a whole bunch of animations and all that does not make you any more money. What people care about is usability. They care about information. information. They care about trust. So yeah, don't, I would have told myself, again, back in the day, like, don't spend, thousands and thousands of dollars on this gorgeous site design. Instead, just make sure when you go to it, like, people can actually find what they want. They can add it to their cart, they can enter their payment information, and they can have a good experience. Like, it's so much more important than the vanity of having it look good. So I wish I knew that. Hopefully that helps you. And finally, the eighth thing, the final thing that I'll share in this video that I wish I knew when I first started, is that you should always build to sell. There was a great book that came out, probably read it like, I don't know, 5 years ago, called Build to Sell. I'll link to that in the description. But yeah, basically, like, when I first started, I didn't know my businesses would ever even be sellable. So I was doing things like, I started and I was like, oh, okay, I'll use my, personal checking account, and I was a sole proprietor, and then made some money, and then, okay, now I have a S corporation, and now I have a business account, but I also have like another business that I'm doing, and I'm using that same account, and basically things got like commingled. And while that's fine if you're not gonna sell the business, it's not good if you ever want to. And maybe you're thinking you never want to, but I never thought I wanted to, and I did. So my first network of stores that I sold. So what I wish I would have done is had, okay, this is the business, this is the business bank account, this is for, e-commerce stores A, B, C, D for that network. And then if I want to launch e-commerce stores, X, Y, Z, I'm actually gonna have a whole different bank account for that. I'm gonna have a different credit card for that. That way, if I ever sell stores A, B, and C, and normally they would be in related niches, so you would sell them as a network, then that would have its own accounting, right? It would have its own bank statements, the credit card would all be set for that. That way, if you ever do want to sell, again, everything would be so clear. You could talk to a broker, they would have a nice package of your financials, they would give it to the prospective buyer, they would look at it, they would say, this makes sense, I'm gonna give you a good multiple, and everybody is gonna make money. Now, if you do it the other way, you have to start pulling things out and trying to figure out what is what, and it just gets messy. So it's as easy as opening, another checking account and having another credit card, just to separate things. And yeah, make sure if you want to sell, you have that separate thing that doesn't get commingled. So those are the 8 guys. Quick recap, 90-10 rule, put 90% of your efforts, both financially and time-wise, into what is proven to work. Put 10% into what you're experimenting with. The second is handing off tasks and hiring people can actually improve the operations that you might think you're the only one that could do. The third is people lie, whether that's crazy customers or, demented competitors that just rip your stuff off and pretend to be you. The fourth is numbers don't lie. So set up tracking that you trust so you can make data-driven decisions off that. The fifth is the money is in the lists. That includes email lists and remarketing lists. The sixth is everything is negotiable, and you can easily make more money just by sending a couple emails or making a couple phone calls. The seventh is usability over design. Don't focus only on cosmetics. Make sure people can get what they want out of your website, meaning find the products, add it to their cart, easily buy, and trust what is there. And finally, build to sell, because you never know when you might want to cash out, and you want to make that process as easy as possible, and you want to make sure your business is worth as much as possible. So hope you found that valuable, guys. As always, if you did, please do give the video a thumbs up, leave a comment, and let me know below. If you're brand new to Dropship Lifestyle, check out dropshiplifestyle.com/webinar. I have a free 2.5-hour training there that takes you through the 7 steps that we use every time we launch a new store. And the book, if you're wondering, it is coming out in June. And if you follow Dropship Lifestyle, you're probably on one of our lists, either a remarketing list or the email list. So you'll definitely be hearing about that. So see everybody, have a good day, and I'll talk to you all in the next episode of Dropship Weekly.